Okay. I'm going to share it on Facebook. And we're posting on Facebook. So we should be good. And then a way to unpause the recording. Here we go. Well, welcome to A Day of Light and Love 2022. And I'm Jeannie Fritsch. I'm the host of the event. I'm with Paige Empowers, who is the segment contributor. Paige, you've been here a few times since we began hosting this event, and your contribution is always truly amazing. And so what I'd like to do is just start with letting anyone know who doesn't necessarily understand the mission of A Day of Light and Love. We do it on Christmas Day each year, and we bring the wisdom of, I don't want to call everybody overcomers, but I guess in a lot of ways, I guess we are. We've moved through something to arrive at new levels of understanding about life, understanding about humanity, understanding that there's more levels ahead, that growth is an ongoing path if we choose to pursue it. And so when there's the holidays, Christmas tends to bring with it a lot of memories of the past, which is a good thing. Like, traditions can be very heartwarming, but they can also bring up remembrances, memories when frictions ran high, maybe in families, and people didn't come together anymore. There was a shift in a relationship, or maybe a death of a relationship. It could be even a health challenge that interrupts the regular pattern of how things are done, and we're missing that. I've even in my life, I have experienced being lonely at Christmas by myself, but also a loneliness at Christmas when I was not in sync with where I was supposed to be. You understand that? I know it's amazing. That's amazing. So this event is specifically to offer to anyone who's going through any of those things or other manifestations of loneliness or isolation or shadow, darkness, to bring some nuggets and perhaps even some steps to get on the path of growth, so that a year from now, the next Day of Light and Love, there's so much light in your world that you tune in just because you're grateful that we're here, but not necessarily because, or maybe you're ready for your next level, but that's a different conversation. I mean, I'm going to turn this over to you, Paige, for a few minutes, if you wouldn't mind just bringing a little bit of who you are forward, and perhaps some challenges that have come in your life that for many would have been obstacles to personal growth and spiritual evolution, but instead you chose to maximize those experiences to bring more light, not only into your life, but into the world. So Paige, if you'd like to take over for a little bit, that would be great.
Awesome, Jean. First and foremost, thank you so much for doing this, and for inviting me to be a participant and part of this. What an honor, and you truly are a gift. So thank you. You're certainly a gift in my life too. Personally. So thank you. And it's finding that spark, maybe, it can be immediate. It can be right now. And it can be in the moment of devastation. You're standing in devastation going, whoa, what do I do? And there's something inside that says, do nothing. Just be. Just be. Find that kind of 0 point, that balance, that, in all the chaos, find a balance, and in my own life, in 1993, I got divorced, and 21 days later, my, at that time, ex-husband had my daughters for visitation for a weekend. And 21 days, it's like, wow, okay, that's not very long. Okay. Anyways, and again, it kind of surprises me even today, 30 years later, how quick that was. Anyways, and while he had them, my daughters and his girlfriend, another adult, and 3 other children were all murdered. And so I can remember being in the car on the way, because I did have sole physical custody. So I needed to go and identify them. And I remember on the way, just praying, like, I'm on my knees here. I don't know what to do, and talk about, chaos and, the media and everything. But mostly and more importantly was Martina and Helen. And somehow I knew that in a strange way, they were okay. And that they were beyond anything that happened up to that point, or anything that would happen in the future. And so, there's always a disbelief, and there's always, until it's, yes, that's them. There's always hope that it's not.
Yeah.
Always. And so, I walked in with hope, and I walked out with a knowing. And so, and the difference between the two was what my chaos was inside. And so, or part of it anyways. And I just kept getting, find the love here. You don't need to stop loving them. They didn't stop loving you. Oh, okay. So the love continues. And it was like, okay, baby steps here, please, whoever is guiding me. And it was God, it was my angels. My own mother had passed 7 years prior, so she was a part of it. And all the guidance, all of the support that I was getting from off planet or other world, heaven, was stay in love. And so every time I'd veer, it'd be like, oh, whoop, okay. A memory would pop in, or, I'd hear their giggles or something like that. And was I sad? Absolutely. Was I grieving? Oh my goodness. Absolutely. We can have good grief. We can have a grief that allows the love to continue. So, for the past 19 years, that is what I have done professionally, is bring love back to the conversation. And I pray every day of my life that is what I will continue to do. And Martina and Helen helped me do that. I don't do this alone, and you yourself, you help me do that. We're supported if we get quiet enough to recognize that. And it's so important in how we say what we need to say,
Are you saying if we allow the support, we will receive it?
Correct. Yes.
That's a really powerful point.
It is.
That support can be available all of the time, but we have to turn on the allower.
Yes.
Or open it.
Yes. And Jean, don't get me wrong. There's days where it's like, I just want to be in this deep sadness. And that's okay. I just don't move in and pay rent to it anymore.
Yes.
You know,
You don't camp there for long.
exactly. And, to isolate, sometimes it's not isolation. Sometimes it's giving yourself that pause, finding that love for yourself, just as we're speaking of finding love in all of our experiences.
Yes.
We are
The
experience.
yeah, the power of the pause is the power of aloneness. And when we're alone, I think that when we have aloneness with presence, it is some of the most powerful moments for me that I've ever spent, is aloneness with presence, intentional presence in that aloneness.
Yes.
It just opens. It seems to open this doorway or this portal to some sort of really elevated understanding that sometimes is beyond words.
Yes.
You know, it
Yes.
is beyond words. So aloneness, I think, for me, I learned that aloneness was an invitation to more understanding.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And it's in order to transform, and we've heard this many, many times, the butterfly, in order to get its wings, must go through this metamorphosis on its own. There's nobody in that cocoon with it except for God, or, that's the only other presence.
And when it's emerging, if you help the butterfly, it will not fly.
That's right. That's right.
That what is perceived to be a struggle is actually a forward movement
Yes.
of strength and
Yes.
and self-support.
Yes, it's birthing. It's birthing into that next level of love for ourselves. And when we can get to that place where we love ourselves so unconditionally, in the Bible it says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Well, how do you love yourself so you can love that neighbor?
Yes.
How truly, and if you're treating your neighbor better than you,
yes. And how often do we do that? That's the thing. Right. I know how often I've done that. I literally am intentional at not going down that path.
Yes.
Because for years I did, and I didn't even understand how damaging it was. I thought it was just some level of humility that was admirable to like we were speaking, we've spoken with a couple, we just had a couple great conversations today on the forgiveness thing, forgiving yourself. And a lot of times in my experience, I have been harder on myself than I've ever been on anyone else. Yes. And that doesn't mean I haven't been hard on other people or tough or no, but I'm just saying that, sometimes people apply a higher standard to others than they do to themselves.
Yes.
I think that can be true. I can bounce in and out of that circle.
Yes.
I can. However, I do know that when there's a negative impact or a perceived negative impact, I will just overanalyze how I could have done it differently. Or, that's a form, I think, for me, of being hard on myself, because that there's a level yet of acceptance. There's a level of maybe some lower levels of acceptance have occurred, but the ultimate release of the wisdom is still kind of trapped energetically. We're still sorting it, but there is something in releasing ourselves, forgiving ourselves. I think for me, that has probably been the deepest work. And also I don't know, it releases a whole different level of of living and understanding.
It really does. And it's, forgiveness, do no harm, all of the wisdom of the ages that we have heard, you know, how can I be of service? All of those sayings and all of the energy that has come from and remains even now applies to us as well. And it applies to our experience. Our experience is another entity within our own experience.
Yes, it is. Wow. That was a mic drop right there.
Yes.
Golden nugget there. Nugget alert.
Yes. And it's like, okay, so if I can become kind of that observer for a moment and step out of the chaos, even as an observer, it can be very emotional. And
yes.
I would never deny myself my emotion and my genuineness.
Yes.
In being with response instead of reaction. But it's like, that whole experience has an energy of itself. And what is my piece in that? Because it's not my totality. That's a piece. And when Martina and Helen died, it's a piece. It's a piece of their experience too. It's not their whole experience. Their whole experience was love. And so that's what I want to share with the world, is their experience is love. It had an abrupt physical ending. Absolutely. It's love though, and Jean, you and I have talked and, at different times about the person that took their lives. And when he gets to heaven, he'll actually know what love is. What a beautiful gift that will be. And it's like, oh my gosh, he'll actually be able to feel what others have already known, what I already know, and it's like, not that I wish anybody not here, but how exciting for that person at some point when it is his God-given time not to be here anymore, to actually be able to be wrapped in those little arms. Oh my goodness. And
wow.
I don't think I'm crazy. Some people are like, oh my goodness, how can you even say that?
No, I understand.
How can I not?
Yeah.
How can I not? Because Martina and Helen and now myself, it's about loving others.
Yes, what it is it's a reflection of the embodiment of love that your journey, your experience has evolved into. It just emanates, because if once you hit that point where everything is love, well, then there's no thought that can violate that. Right.
And as humans, we have moments where it's like, let's poke at that a little bit,
emotional moments, usually, sometimes mental, but mostly emotional moments.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things I've learned over the years is, our mind is so important, and so is our heart. We can't do what we do. Well, we can. It's easier, and we do things more with ease when we engage them both. And so, what would it feel like to think love like we feel love? And bring that forward, and through our voice, of course, it's right in the middle. It's bringing that forward.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm just so honored and blessed to be able to bring that forward to the best of my ability, which changes. That's the other thing. Don't you think, Jean, where we just, it's like, okay, leveling up. When I get in the isolation place where things are funky, it's like,
absolutely.
Okay, it's leveling up time. Let's
Yeah,
see
I
this
call that the
goes.
time to zoom out. I just have to zoom out. Like
Yeah,
I can't zoom in at that moment. I have to zoom
right.
out. And it's
Yeah.
almost a reminder to zoom out because you feel that resistance and then you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm too in this.
Yes.
I gotta move out here and see it bigger
Mhm.
and allow whatever
Yes.
this experience is so that I can allow the next level of understanding to
Yeah.
be received.
Yes. And then shared.
Oh,
Yes.
and then shared.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so speaking of sharing,
Yes.
as we kind of start to um, move to the close, uh, for someone who's watching this and is in need of support, like they know they're looking for some answers, they're looking for a direction, but not necessarily know. It just seems too big. Like it just seems overwhelming. Where do I start? And because it is overwhelming, maybe it doesn't become a consistent practice. Can you offer just some simple steps to someone like that for a feeling of progress that makes them that invites them to continue or move to higher levels of progress?
Absolutely, Jean. One of the first and foremost things that I do with my mentorship program and with people that I work with is I tell them, find a tree, find a tree and go touch it. Just allow that tree to touch you back.
Mm,
Even if it's, I mean, we're very cold here right now. Even if it's just to go out, even if it's only to see it, but to connect in with something outside of yourself that isn't asking anything of you.
mm.
And so there's no agenda with the trees that, that in fact, they kind of like it with our carbon. They'll give us back oxygen. Talk about reciprocal, you know, and getting curious with the authentic emotion. What am I really feeling here? And we can speak to ourselves with grace and kindness. And that I think is one of the things that, at times I forget. It's like, oh, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, get in if you can, just get into that place of just taking a deep breath and pausing for a moment. We spoke of that pause. And whatever is happening around us will meet us there, whether we're quiet or we're loud. And choosing, that's the biggest thing. Knowing that you have a choice. That's the key that you hold.
Oh, yes.
We each have a superhuman key, and it's called choice, free will. It was given to us upon our birth.
Yes.
And it is never taken away. We
No.
give it away sometimes.
Yes.
And
We
so,
become victims of our own ignorance.
yes, if we can reclaim that.
But it's a definitely a voluntary victim.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
have to choose it, but I don't think we always realize. Some of that
Right.
is the nurture too. It's what you were surrounded with.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely. And
but
being
you're
able
right.
to say no.
Recognizing that choice.
Yes. And then from that choice, being able to say no from a place of grace instead of, I have to say no and getting all upset.
Oh,
If
yes.
we can say, this just isn't working for me right now. Again, it's how we address ourselves, and
Yes.
that's the choice, and how the words that come forward is, you know, transformation. Every time we speak, we've transformed ourselves and everything around us.
Mm,
Think of
yes.
the power that we
In
have.
one way or another, there's an influence there, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Yes, and we have such beautiful, beautiful potential and opportunity in each and every moment. And tapping into that, knowing it first, and then being able to just get quiet for a minute and then going into it.
Mm,
Okay, I have choice. And I'm not going to judge myself on whatever choice I make. because there never is a wrong choice, is there?
No, there really isn't.
Yeah.
No,
Outcomes
there
are different.
really isn't.
Yeah. Outcomes are different. Doesn't mean it's wrong.
It doesn't mean it's wrong.
Mm-mm.
There's
'Cause,
still the path ahead.
yes, our journey is not a straight line. Think what we would miss if we didn't take detours in the nook crannies,
Yeah, for
you know.
sure.
you
Yeah.
know. I travel a lot, and so I get to see all the little nooks and crannies because I choose to drive most of the time. And so I had someone ask me one time, well, aren't people kind of crabby? And I'm like, I haven't met them yet. And so feeling that kindness given allows us to expand as well.
Yes.
Expecting it. That's the other thing. Our choice can be, I am resilient and I am worthy. So
Mm.
sharing it, it could just be a smile at somebody in a grocery store. I remember sometimes going to the grocery store was like, I'd have to work myself up to even be able to do it. And if somebody smiled, it was like, okay, I'm okay. I can get through this.
Oh, yes.
So again, that sharing, once we not even understand, but once we can feel it,
Yes.
we
Because
can move.
oftentimes we feel it
Yeah,
like viscerally, we understand it even before we can really understand it enough to express it to ourselves, let alone to someone else.
right.
We
Yep.
enter it almost as the understanding is occurring.
Yes. Have you ever had an experience and went, wow, that was me?
Absolutely.
Not sure where that came from, but thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's that beautiful support on our path and our journey.
It's
Not only
dynamic support.
it is, talk about a really cool relationship. That's what the kind of relationships I want. The ones that are like, oh, look at this. So, there's a diamond, there's love, there's gleam, there's glory in every single thing we do. So
Our eyes just have to see it. Our heart has to feel it.
yeah. And Jean, sometimes we can't see it. So we need to reach out to those that can see it in us and ask them. I'm just not seeing my shine right now. My spark is there and I know it. I just don't see it or feel it. Can you help me?
Yes.
And have those people in your life where you can. That's so important.
I agree.
Yeah. You're one of those people.
Hmm.
My goodness, where's my spark? Well, let's look and see. And so we teach as we learn too, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or we learn.
Absolutely. I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Reverse
There's
that.
no real arrival, is there?
No.
There's just maybe a little ledge that you rest on for a minute or two and continue the climb.
Yes, absolutely. And the climb in those moments, if you look out over the vast,
Oh,
it's awe-inspiring, isn't it?
it is. And imagine that you stayed on a ledge, that became a plateau, and you never got to experience any of the climb beyond that.
Mhm.
All of the beautiful experiences.
Yes.
You denied yourself if you
Yes.
chose to stay at the plateau, make that ledge, that resting ledge, a plateau.
Yes. And do you think too, to take that one more step, choosing to stay on that plateau alone? Because if we choose to stay on that plateau and reach out to someone like yourself and say, I'm on this plateau, will you stand with me? Even if I don't ever choose to go higher, stand with me. I get to see the beauty through your eyes as well.
That's an interesting perspective, one that I've not contemplated before.
Yeah.
In my experience, plateau people tend to have a lot of people around them who are satisfied with, and so I suppose whatever level offers you satisfaction. Certainly, I have stayed on a ledge and made it a plateau because there was some satisfaction there.
Yes.
And then something occurs
Yes.
to compel me to move up.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. And for those that are choosing to stay at that plateau, though, I think there's something more they can experience even there.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because if they're not compelled, if that's not coming through, then that's not their path. Their path is the plateau.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And to honor that and be with them, because their vision is very beautiful as well.
Yeah, and perhaps there are people there standing with them to support, and over time they are the ones to become the supporter.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was an interesting contemplation there for me.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. And Merry Christmas to you.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Beautiful, wonderful Christmas. This
Mm.
is the day that we recognize the birth of one who just embodied love and grace.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
brought so much light.
Yes.
Reminded us of the light that we have within us. And
yes. It says, come walk with me.
I know.
This you can do and more.
That is the leadership model that he embodied. And amazing. So,
And I can't wait to see what more there is.
There is more too.
Yes.
There is more.
Yes.
It's interesting. It's like when you start to let that light in, it's like the light almost becomes mesmerizing.
Yes.
Because you just see it more expressively and more brilliantly. Yeah. And it's like a magnet. And so for those who aren't living in that experience right now, that is available to you.
Yes.
That's available to you.
Yes.
And it just there is a requirement, and that is reaching out to access it. That's really the only requirement.
Yes. Take some kind of action.
Mm-hmm. However small. In fact, the smallest ones are sometimes all that's needed to birth the next moment of light coming in.
Yes.
Yeah. Trust that. Just trust that there is light.
There is. I promise there is light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your day. This was magnificent, Paige.
Oh, enjoy yours too. Thank you.
Thank you much.